Welcome to episode 100 of the Digital Trailblazer podcast. In this episode, we're going to highlight our very favorite, most impactful episodes from this last year to help you wherever you are in your business. So if you're looking to take your business to the next level, then these are the top episodes that you need to listen to right now. So stick around. If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Digital Trailblazers. We are super excited to have you with us on our 100th episode. We are super excited. This has been almost a year in total that these episodes have gone on, and we've had some amazing guests and amazing stories to share with you. So I'm excited to really break down where you need to go. If you're just finding us now, if you're just new to Digital Trailblazer, or maybe you didn't get started at the very beginning, what are the ones that you should actually take some time and go back to get caught up?
Yeah, we've had some just amazing guests. I was just mentioning this to somebody the other day, is that before we started this podcast, we tended to think that the online business world was kind of a small world. Like we already kind of knew who was who, and we knew who was successful, who wasn't. And starting this podcast and bringing guests on, what we found out was that this is a much, much bigger world than what we had ever believed it was, because we've just met so many people that are doing some amazing things in their business, generating 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, 7 figures or more in their business, and they're having so much success. And they've shared with us their very best strategies for achieving that success. And so what we've done is Leah and I kind of put our heads together and we looked at everything that was covered in the last year. And we've picked out our top episodes, our favorite ones, our favorite guests that came on and shared with us some of their best strategies. And so that's what we're going to reveal for you today, in no particular order, by the way. These aren't like ranking 1 to 10 or whatever, but I think we're going to start with just our favorite stories. We've had some people come on just to tell their story of how they got started, what they did at the beginning, the struggles that they had, and then where they're at right now. And not only did they share an inspiring story, but they gave us some really great insight about the journey of becoming an entrepreneur and building a successful business and the lessons they learned along the way. So no matter where you're at in your business, I think these episodes are going to be very valuable for you.
So I found the story of Jasmine Tates. It was actually episode number 1. I found it beautiful and super inspiring. She took something very non-online businessy world, and she turned it into a beautiful, very successful online business. And she did it through YouTube, and really a small YouTube channel that has helped her make intense amounts of revenue. And she just has a beautiful spirit and a beautiful story. And I thought, she was a really good way to kick off podcast as a whole.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that one. That was like a home run right out of the park and with that first episode, because that was such an interesting story about how she got started and, just creating content, and the content is kind of taking off and generating her traffic for her, and then selling her offer on a webinar or on a challenge I think she was doing. And it was just a really neat story. And then later on in the episode, we really got into her plans for how she's going to scale it and the different things that she was going to do there. And then we even got into how she could layer in paid ads onto what she was doing, because at that point, she wasn't even doing paid ads. So I think that was a great episode just to learn the story of, from beginning to end, what is it like building a successful business? Another one that I found really interesting was one of the more recent ones, episode 80 with Emily Hill. And she had a story of, she became a college professor teaching people how to do coding. And what she found was that in the education world, where you're traditionally going to colleges or tech school or whatever to learn coding to get a job, is that it was a very inefficient way of helping people. So what she did was she took her expertise and she started her own business teaching people the exact same thing she was teaching as a college professor, but doing it in a much more efficient way. And now she has a great offer that she's built out, and she's turned it into a very successful business for herself. So that was another episode that especially because of the journey that she took and the things that she had tried, because I remember there being a lot of similarities between her journey and our journey about the things that we had experienced building our own business from scratch.
Yeah. And I think it's just an awesome story to have a college professor go from college professor type income to a 7-figure business, which is beautiful.
Next on our list, one of the things that a lot of people are, especially at the very beginning, are very interested in is organic traffic. Like, how do you create content, or how do you generate traffic that's free, that you don't have to invest in paid ads right away, that you can really get your business up and running and off the ground with? And we've got 2 episodes, I think, that really stuck out in this area.
Honestly, we had several that stuck out, but we had to narrow it down a little bit. And the first is episode 57. And this is with Mike Gostola. And I'm sorry, Mike, if I'm butchering your last name. But it was an amazing episode discussion around using TikTok. And he has been using it very successfully for himself. He's been teaching it for a long time. And we got into some really good strategy stuff and TikTok Live and some other things that we really hadn't talked about before on the podcast at all.
Yeah. And the other one I think that goes really well with that one is episode 89 with Justin Nault, who I think he started with YouTube and then later on moved into TikTok. But between those 2 episodes, they both just really reinforced the importance of a short form video and video in general, but also how TikTok is just a different platform in the way that it operates, the way that the algorithm works. And that right now, TikTok is a place where you're going to get much more exposure to a new audience versus Instagram or YouTube or something else like that, where a lot of the time people struggle to get in front of a new audience, where the algorithm really isn't in their favor in that sense.
Absolutely. And Justin actually gave some very specific technical golden nuggets on software to use and different tips that he has implemented for himself and creating really awesome content that has gotten him tons and tons of views. And he's built 2 7-figure businesses off of this content. So he's really good at it.
Yeah. And not only that, but also the types of videos and the little tricks that they use in order to get people to watch their videos, not just once, but multiple times. Because we know that in the world of online video, like number 1 is click rate, number 2 is watch time. You know, there are these things that the algorithm really looks for when it's deciding whose content to promote. And so they had both of them, both Mike and Justin had some really great strategies for how to format your videos and the different things you want to put into them in order to get more watch time out of them, get people to watch your videos multiple times so that you're really boosting your content in that algorithm and reaching as many people as possible.
So the next category we want to talk about is sales strategy, because if you're doing all of this great stuff to generate traffic, to generate leads, now how do you actually convert them into a sale? So we had a couple really good episodes that blew us kind of out of the water when it came to helping people convert their leads into actual sales.
Yeah. And the first one that I would point out here is, again, it's one of our more recent ones, but episode 95 with Steve Lowell. And this is an episode where he talked about an evergreen automated webinar strategy. And this is one that we really love because it's with an automated evergreen webinar that took us from kind of the low 6-figure range in income to suddenly catapulting us into 7-figure range with our very first online course. And without an automated webinar, we would never have been able to do that. And the thing is that if you can get an automated webinar to work, that is something that will just catapult your revenue in your business. And we really grilled him on the specifics of what he's doing, what's working right now, how do we create urgency and scarcity, how do we get people to register for the webinar, every little piece of this process of creating an automated webinar that's going to actually convert really well. What do you say in the webinar? What type of script do you want to use? All that stuff we went through in there. And so to me, that was one of the most valuable episodes that we've done on an actual sales strategy that's going to generate revenue in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great episode. And the next one, when it comes to converting sales, this just got my curiosity ramped up. And I was super like, I want to try this. This sounds amazing. And I know that we've had several people from our podcast actually connect with Rebecca from episode 36 to actually learn these strategies and start working with them in their businesses. So Rebecca in episode 36 talks about the secret podcast strategy and how she's taken the principles that we would use in a standard webinar scenario and applied them in a very different format. And with the way people consume content these days, that's why I got really juiced about this, because I know I am an avid podcast listener. I listen to stuff that's really good for me and I learn about things. I also listen to like true crime and random crap, but podcast is a beautiful platform to have people's attention. And in a very busy world where show up rates and open rates and all of these things have, taken a hit over the years as more and more things grab for our attention, I think this is a really interesting take on a more standard format, updating it to how people consume content more these days.
Right. And, Leah, you mentioned how open rates and show rates and all that have kind of gone down. Well, the reason that is because when something is brand new, when a strategy is brand new and it's kind of novel and people haven't been exposed to it so much, well, yeah, then it's going to be the most effective. But when everybody starts piling on and all the marketers and all the online business owners are kind of doing the same thing, and your market, your audience kind of gets used to those things, that's when the effectiveness kind of starts taking a nosedive. And so one of the things that we learned early on in our business was that when everybody else is zigging, you need to be zagging. In other words, if you're jumping onto a bandwagon late, you've already kind of missed the party. Those amazing testimonials that people have gotten when they first implemented some strategy, you're very unlikely to be able to hit those unless you're doing something different, right? Unless you put your own spin on it. And that's really why I love what Rebecca revealed to us in that episode 36, is because she took the concept of an automated webinar and reformatted it in a way where it's new and it's different, and very few people are doing it right now. And so I think at this point, it's a very unique opportunity to learn a new strategy that few people are doing, where you can be zigging where everybody else is zagging. And you can be doing something different where you're going to get a bigger result than people would normally get because it's something new and something that your audience hasn't been exposed to yet.
And last but definitely not least is our episode with Marty Marian about messaging. This was a gold mine. Messaging is really everything when it comes to online sales. Like any strategy can work to some degree if you've got great messaging. And Marty, after decades in this industry, has a beautiful formula and an awesome way to really break this down. And he's just a genius when it comes to messaging. So Marty's episode, I think, was phenomenal and will be able to help a lot of people who have struggled when it comes to actually converting and getting people to take out that credit card and purchase.
And this was episode 88, by the way, episode 88 with Marty Marian. And a little bit about Marty's background. He's a veteran of the advertising agencies on Madison Avenue that the show Mad Men was based on. And he worked there, I think, in the 80s and 90s, or 70s, 80s, 90s, somewhere around there. But he just a genius marketer and genius as far as messaging and positioning. And he introduced us to the concept of depositioning, which is really the key to making the sale right now in online business, is this idea of depositioning, because it's not enough just to describe why your offer is good and why it's going to work for people. That part is important, but the depositioning part is really what's going to get people over that finish line to actually becoming a paying customer or client for you. So he describes all about that in his episode that we did. And the reason why this is so important is that no matter where you're at in your business, if you find that you're jumping from strategy to strategy, if you've tried, a lead generation strategy, if you've tried webinars, if you've tried challenges, if you're trying all these different things, and you're finding that you're not getting the result that you expect or the result that other people are getting with the same strategy, this is typically a sign that your messaging is broken. If you're implementing a webinar strategy and you're doing it and you're doing all the things right, but you're just not making sales, we need to look at your messaging. If you are doing a Facebook challenge or something like that, or a Facebook group strategy, and you're doing everything right, you're following all the steps and you've implemented everything perfectly, but you're not making sales, you're not booking calls, then we need to look at your messaging, because that's probably the thing that is preventing people from taking that next step to booking a call or pulling out their credit card and buying and joining, is that the messaging isn't strong enough. So for most people out there, I would say the very first episode you need to listen to is that episode 88 with Marty.
Now, I want to take a moment just to thank you, our audience, because this has been an amazing experience. All of our guests, we want to thank you as well for being with us over this last year. We've had just tons and tons of great content, so it is definitely worth binging everything, honestly. But to you, the guests who've helped us to become a top 3% podcast in just under a year. So we feel very honored with your trust and with your attention and time as you go through this content. So we thank you very much for that. Now, this is amazing content and we highly suggest it. But if you are at the point that you know that you can't do this on your own, if you know that there might be some challenges or things that are holding you back that you need someone to point out or to help guide you through, we're actually offering a free business evaluation to meet with our team to really look at where you need help you isolate some things, and then we can offer you some free resources or kind of point you in the direction of some of the different programs or things that we can help you with directly. But we will have the link in the show notes and description to grab a time to talk with us and to see how we can help you on your journey.
And the thing is that this is not a sales call in disguise. This is not something where you're going to get pitched on the end with joining a program. This is purely something where we actually take a look at your business. We kind of evaluate where the holes are, where your biggest needs are, and then we've got a bunch of free resources that we can refer you to. At the end of the call, if you are interested in learning more about what it would look like to work with us, then you can set up a separate call. But this business evaluation that you're booking with us, like I said, it is not a sales call in disguise, and it's purely just something to help out our audience.
So thank you again so much for being with us for these 100 episodes, but stay tuned because we're just getting started. You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.